Hello friends, this is Raman Gill with your weekly Forex market analysis for October 10th, 2016. Just a quick disclaimer before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. If you have questions about your individual investing needs, I recommend you talk to your investment advisor. In today's video, we'll start by taking a look at the economic news, then we'll get into the commitment of traders data to understand how the big players are positioned, and finally, we'll get into our technical analysis. So let's start off by taking a look at the Forex factory for this week. Starting the week off with Monday here, it is a holiday in Canada as well as the US. And for the London session, we don't have much news, important news coming out. Everything is yellow here. And then going into the Asian session, we have current account for Japan and then business confidence number for Australia. Going into Tuesday here, the important data here is German ZEW economic sentiment for the Eurozone at 5 a.m. Eastern. And then we have MPC member Saunders speaking. Going into Wednesday here, again, a very quiet UK session. We just have MPC member Cunliffe speaking. Going into the US session, we have FOMC member Dudley and George speaking. And then we also have Joel's job openings at 10 a.m. Eastern. The main event for Wednesday here is the FOMC meeting minutes, and these are usually market moving. So at this point, the market is looking to get direction from the Fed to understand where they are going, whether they are looking to raise interest in their December meeting or not. So that will be the important thing that the market will be looking at. If they have a positive language in terms of raising interest rates, that will be positive for the US dollar. However, if there's dovish commentary or the comments suggest that they are not looking to raise interest rates, that will be negative for the US dollar. So this is the main event for this week here. And then going into the Asian session, we have trade balance out of China. On Thursday, we have unemployment claims for the US at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, and we have crude oil inventories. Other than that, the markets will be relatively calm in regards to the news. And then going into the Asian session, we have financial stability review for Australian dollar and then CPI and PPI numbers out of China. Going into Friday here, we have PPI number for Switzerland and then Bank of England credit condition survey for the British pound. And then we have MPC member Forbes speaking for UK here. At 8:30 a.m. Eastern, we have core retail sales, PPI, and retail sales number. We also have FOMC member Rosengren speaking. That will be important. And then we have preliminary UOM consumer sentiment number. And most importantly here, Fed Chair Yellen speaking. Market is really eyeing the Fed to see if they will raise interest rates. Last week we had FOMC member Fisher really urging the Federal Reserve Bank to actually raise interest rates, and now market will be eyeing Yellen's speech to see what her thoughts are. How is she leaning in regards to the interest rate hike? So that will be the key event for this week. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Let's move on to the commitment of traders data here. We'll start off by taking a look at Euro US dollar. We see that the leverage funds have increased their short positions. They have gone from 79,660 short contracts to 88,213. So that's a substantial drop, which means this is bearish for Euro US dollar. Moving on to the British pound here, we saw a huge drop in the pound last week. And in terms of the COT positioning, we had talked about how we had seen a doubling of short positions last week, and now we have seen more of an increase in the short positions. So we have gone from 62,183 to 79,203 short positions. So this is bearish for British pound. Looking at Japanese yen here, we see this leveraged money positions are fairly flat here. We started off with 60,730 and this week we are at 60,759. So pretty flat for yen. So this is very neutral for yen for this week. Looking at dollar CAD here for Canadian positions, we actually see an increase in short Canadian positions. So we have gone from positive 3,197 to 21,721 negative, and now this week we are at 27,216 negative contract. So this is a big shift for the Canadian dollar. We have actually gone from positive number long positions to net short positions. This is very negative for Canadian dollar, which means it is bullish for dollar CAD. Looking at Aussie US dollar here, we actually see an increase in long positions. So we have gone from 10,630 long contracts to 26,456. So the contracts have more than doubled. So this is actually really bullish for Australian dollar. For New Zealand US dollar here, last week we saw an increase in the long position. So we went from 21,711 to 27,250 long positions. This week, though, we are actually seeing a slight decrease. So it's fairly neutral. We have gone to 27,457 long positions. So this is very neutral for New Zealand dollar. Let's move on to the charts here. Here we are looking at Euro US dollar weekly chart. And here we see that the Euro US dollar is still trading within that range. At the top of the range, we have 113.26, and at the bottom, we are looking at 111.20. And the price tried to break through the bottom of the range, but it failed and got pushed back. Here we see an upwards trending trend line here, and price tried to break through it but bounced back. So right now we are looking for this range to break out. So we're looking for either the price to break through it or price to go up and break to the top side of the range here. Looking at the daily chart here, we can see price was trying to go through here, and it actually went through the low bottom of the range, but then it got pushed back in, and actually there was a big bullish move to the upside on Friday. So as a result now, so we are still in this range, and we're looking for the range to break before we can do anything about this pair. So in terms of the movement here, we could look for price to come down to the bottom of the range, and if it doesn't break below the range, we are looking for a move back into the range again, which means the 111.20 would be a buying opportunity. However, if the price goes to the top of the range here at 113.20 area and the price does not go up, it stays below this level, we're looking for a bounce back into towards the middle of the range. So that could be a potentially short selling opportunity. For this time though, we are within this range, so we have to see a clean break either below the range to trade this short, or we need to see a break above the top of the range to see this pair go long. At this point, it's very neutral and we are looking to trade the range. Pound US dollar, we saw that the pound just fell through the bottom here. We had the price break out of this range that it had been trading for months since June. Finally, it closed below this range, and then during the early Asian session, we had the price just fall through the floor here. So now at this point, the sentiment is very, very bearish for the British pound. This was one of the trades that we were stocking in our trade room, and we saw that the price closed below the range. We saw a clean daily close below the range, and then we were short in that position looking for the market to drop. So I had expected the drop. However, I did not realize that we were going to see such a big drop. In the Asian session, we saw the market just drop 500 pips in about 5 minutes, and whether that was a result of a fat finger, somebody accidentally putting positions on, or it was just due to low liquidity in the market during the Asian trading hours, that's to be seen. At this point, we are bearish on British pound and we are looking for price to move down. However, before it does that, we may see a pullback. So looking at the daily chart here, this is the break that we had seen below the range. And after this happens, we were looking for price to back test this and then drop. And as we can see, we saw that drop, but then this is where the price just fell through the bottom here. At this point, we are looking for a back test of 124.80 area here. If the price stays below this, we're looking for another move to the downside. However, we could see the price go up higher and test higher. In that case, here's the 124.80 area that we are watching. However, the price could come up here into the 12600 area or even higher into 12800. If the price stays below 124.80 level, we're looking for another move to the downside, and the first target will be 12200, and then finally towards the bottom of this range here, or bottom of the candle here, where if the price breaks above, we are looking for it to go to 12600 or potentially 12630 area, and that's where we'll be looking for price to react. So at this point, the British pound is oversold, and we'd be looking for market to settle down a bit before we can actually take a trade in this pair. Looking at Aussie US dollar weekly chart here, we did see a bearish close on the week, so which would suggest that we're looking for a follow through on that to the bearish side. However, looking at the daily chart here, we do see that it is in an uptrend. So we see the price has been trending up, and now we are in this range where the price needs to either go to the bottom or move back up. So at this point, based on this technical analysis here, we're looking for price to move down, and if the price does come down, then we may see a bounce again. So we'll be looking for price to potentially come into 75.20 area or even into 74.80 area for a test of this level. And if it breaks below this level, then we're looking for price to move down further. At this point though, we are looking for price to come and test the trend line and then see how it reacts at that point. New Zealand US dollar here, we have seen the price trade in a range for quite some time. The weekly candle was very bearish, and based on that, we'll be looking for a follow through to the downside. Looking at the daily candle here, we do see that the price came and touched the bottom of the range at 71.12 here. However, it did bounce back and we got this doji here. So at this point, we see an indecision in the market. We are at the bottom of the range. If the price stays above 0.7112 level here, we could see the price move back into the range, and that could be a long opportunity. However, at this point, we do need to see the price break out of the range. So at the bottom of the range here, 71.12 could be a potential buying opportunity. However, if the price closes below that, then we are looking for the next support and resistance line as a potential target, which is 69.50. So the scenarios here are if the price stays above this 71.12 area, we're looking for a move back in towards the middle of the range. If it breaks below here, we could look for a back test of 71.12 and then sell it, expecting it to come down into the next support and resistance area, which is 69.50. Looking at dollar CAD here, weekly chart, the weekly close was very positive. We did see that the price closed into the top of the range. So at this point, we will look for a bit of a pullback and potentially for the price to break above here. So if the price does break through the high of 13300, we are looking for price to potentially move into 13600, this level here. And if the price stays below though, then we are looking for price to come back down and potentially test this uptrend line. So very bullish close on the weekly chart. Looking at the daily here, we do see that the price has closed very bullish into the top part of the range here, and at this point we are looking for price to break out of the range and then give us a pullback for an entry long, or we may be looking for price to reject this top level here resistance and then turn around and come back towards the middle of the range. So those are the two potential opportunities we are looking for. I have a very special announcement to make. We have just launched our trade room, which runs from Tuesday to Thursday in the London session, so from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. Eastern Time. As a part of the trade room subscriber, you will receive a weekly market analysis video from me. You will also get your daily market analysis video delivered to you so that you are well prepared for the day. You will be able to look at live market analysis with me in the London session. You will also be able to see what kind of trade setups I am looking for, how I'm doing my analysis. You'll be able to look at my screen, look over my shoulder to see how I take my trade, what are the criteria that I'm looking for in order to get into a trade, where to put your stop loss, and where the profit target needs to be. And as a subscriber, you'll get access to the private Facebook group for members only, and you will also have access to the media library where you have tons of examples of the trades that are our best trade setups. You will also get my bonus pivot point indicator. And for all of this, we are running a special promotion at this point. The price for the trade room is $149 per month. We are running a promotion where you can access the first 2 weeks for only $1. And then after that, if you choose to stay, you're only paying $47 per month. And this price will stay for as long as you are with me. So regardless of what the prices will be in the future, your price for your subscription will never go up as long as you are staying with us. Once the room is up and running and everything settled down, the price will go back to its original price. So if you're interested in this, I invite you to go to my website tradingwithvenus.com/work-with-me. So work with me, and you can look at the details for the trade room. And if you're interested, you can sign up for the trade room. So that's it for now. I will see you next week.